on your website, I discovered your very positive outlook on life. It just came through in so many ways. What are some of the seeds that were planted to help you develop it?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't have very good role models growing up.
Oh.
And when I reached my 20s, without even realizing it, I began picking new family members. And the ones that I chose were closer to the models I wish I'd had. I found a very wise, loving woman, Bernice, and I called her Saint Bernice, that I became close to, and she was everything I wanted in a mother. She literally re-raised me, gave me a whole new outlook on life, and I will forever be grateful.
Oh, that's wonderful. You know, you talk about a quote from an unknown author that reads, and I'm quoting, "Use the talents that you possess, for the woods would be very silent if no birds sing except the best." I love it. How does that quote relate to the stance you have taken on life, doing the things that you like, and not necessarily waiting until you have arrived, so to speak?
No, and I don't consider that I have arrived in the sense that the world measures success. But I think that as long as you're doing what you love, then you're successful. In my early years, I tried to keep my talents hidden. I was terrified of making family members jealous, so I held back. And I discovered if you hold back long enough, you start to believe that you're not good enough. And I just don't feed that idea anymore.
You know, you are a singer, artist, and author. Which came first? Or
well, I thought that was funny because when I was about 5 years old, I was standing on a chair in the kitchen doing the dishes, and I was singing the old song "Blue Moon" at the top of my lungs. And I heard something down the hall, and my sister and my mother burst into uncontrollable laughter. and I was so embarrassed that I never wanted to sing in front of people. But I have to say that came first, and then it was art.
Okay.
Writing found me.
Well, you know, you do all three so extremely well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I am so impressed with you. Now, I took a look at some of your paintings on your website and love the one of you and your son. We're going to talk about the memories of your son later on in the show, but I want to ask you right now, what is your favorite medium for painting?
Well, actually, my favorite medium is the pencil, and I did that portrait with a plain old number 2 pencil.
Okay.
And that's what I started with. And if you master the pencil, then you can begin to experiment with other mediums. Oil is my favorite.
Okay. Wow. Well, I never mastered it with the pencil.
Good goal.
Now, you sing with a cover band called Meridian. Tell us what a cover band is and who sings and plays with you.
A cover band plays popular songs recorded by other artists. My husband, BJ, and I formed the band in 2008. And we met in another band called Midlife Crisis.
Okay.
We broke off, and the bass player, Russ Stacy, followed us, and we play at small venues and charity events. So we're putting more effort in our original band, White Smoke, and recording our original songs now.
All right. Okay. Well, we're going to talk a lot more about that, but let me just ask you one more question before we take the break. Do you play an instrument besides your vocal cords?
You know, I strum the guitar, but I am absolutely no match for BJ or Russ because they're very accomplished musicians, so I mainly sing.
Okay, well, that's great, along with all the other things that you do. Well, we're going to take a quick break and listen to a song, and we'll come back and talk some more.
Thanks, Mamie.
Sure.
You're listening to Educational Arts, Music, and Talk Radio with your host, the famous Dr. Mamie Smith.
Well, we are back, and we're talking with Venita Louise about her life and the many things that she does. Now we're going to talk about her book entitled In Mysterious Ways. Um, Venita, can you give us a brief synopsis of your book?
Yes. The main character is Lane Garrett, a well-known California artist who travels to Arizona with his fiancée, a nightclub blues singer, and the purpose is for him to attend a gallery appearance and also for a special surprise that I won't give away for Amanda, but a man invites him to visit a strange anomaly, a crop circle or a vortex that's been formed suddenly. And since it's in a remote mountainous area, they have to ride bicycles to get there, and 4 people accompanying them. And the energy of this circle affects each of these people in a different way.
Wow. Venita, I knew nothing about energy vortexes before I read your book. And then I went online and I did a little research and found that we have them in several states. Help us all to understand what a vortex is.
Well, just about everyone has seen a vortex. It's that swirling motion of the water when you drain the cup. And there are energy vortexes as well, much harder to see, but if you felt one. They're in places that are considered spiritual and conducive to prayer, meditation, and healing.
Okay.
Arizona has many of them listed and even gives tours.
Okay.
But I think they can be anywhere.
Okay. Now, what motivated you to write about one?
Well, I was watching the Discovery Channel one night.
Okay.
And the episode was about crop circles. And I found it so interesting. And they were actually measuring the energy that was inside the circle. And it made me wonder if this energy could actually affect people in different ways. And that's the beauty of being a fiction writer. You get to make stuff up.
I really love the book. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I don't want to give away things that people want to find out when they read it. But I will say that you will be entertained and you will be your interest will be heightened as you read, and you will not wait. You can only wait. You will not be able to wait before you turn the page to see what's going on with the next thing. I was just really, really motivated by it, and I was doing 99 different things, so I would read a little bit and do something and pick the book up and read it again.
Oh, you're making me blush.
But it's all true. It is all true, and you are an excellent writer. You certainly are.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. What I found astonishing with your book, In Mysterious Ways, is how you used all 3 of your artistic skills so masterfully. You show great skills as an author in writing the book, and your 2 main characters are an artist and musician. And my question to you is, do both of them have a little piece of you in them?
I think all my characters have a little piece of me in them. And in fact, when I've finished the story, I really miss them because they become my family. I like to put song titles in my stories. Dead in the Money, A Mystery in the 40s has The Nearness of You.
Okay.
Nuts in the 60s, it's a comedy, refers to Etta James' hit At Last. But in Mysterious Ways, I used an original song that I wrote, The Past Won't Get Any Better.
Oh, okay.
Which we're in the middle of recording right now.
Oh, wow. I'm just going to have to go on. Now, you have CDs out there too, right?
We do. Can find them on CD Baby under White Smoke.
Okay. Okay.
And in fact, we're in iTunes as well.
Okay.
And yeah.
Okay, great.
And you can go to our website for videos. We make videos too.
What do you want your readers to get from this book?
Well, most of all, I would be happy if they just enjoy it and maybe open up to unusual possibilities.
Oh, okay. Now, tell us where they can get that book.
You can find all my books on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, iTunes, and all of them are in audio at audible.com.
Okay. Now, Venita, we're going to talk about one of the closest things to your heart, and that's your son.
Mm-hmm.
What is his name? And yes, go ahead and tell us his name.
His name is Joel.
Okay.
Joel.
Okay. And tell us what you want us to know about your son and his passing. Tell us exactly what you want us to know.
Well, he was a very sensitive, intelligent, and kind person. And sometimes I thought he was just too sensitive for this world. And I come from a long line of kind of messed up people, and he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2004.
Okay.
And it's very typical that people who've been diagnosed with mental problems avoid taking medication for it for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And they try to medicate themselves with alcohol or drugs, and that never, ever worked.
Right.
But in February of 2007, he became very tired of all his struggles, and he took his own life. He was 28.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, to the world, he was very successful. He graduated college with honors.
Okay.
He had a wonderful job.
Okay.
He had a beautiful daughter.
Okay.
But there was just too much mental anguish.
Yes.
And I would hope that people don't judge suicide as something that people are doing to hurt someone else, you know, because he really just wanted to stop his own pain and in fact was terrified of being a burden to others.
Oh.
My biggest regret was he was in Arizona at the time, and I was here in California, so I really didn't see a lot of the trouble and the torture that he was going through.
Sure. As you talked, I listened to the year, which was 2004, when you talked about 2004, and 2005 is when my daughter passed away from breast cancer. Yeah. And yours was just 2 years later, right? Your son in 2007?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Was there a time in your life, Venita, that you felt the pain of his death would never go away?
Well, it hasn't gone.
Okay.
It changed.
It
changed from a sharp pain to a dull ache.
Okay.
And I assume that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
I understand that sharp pain that you're talking about. I experienced something similarly with my daughter, but with 2 years of struggling with it, I did feel that it melted away. So maybe there is hope for you too, that the memory is there, but what I remember is now mostly smiles and mostly good times. But there was a time, like you said, that I woke up to that pain, and it continued even though I was doing certain things. It continued until I went to sleep. It was always there. But
Mhm.
I believe that it will go away. Now tell us what you did to help yourself work
Well,
through this.
everyone processes grief differently, and I don't judge how people handle the challenges that they go through. But at first, it was all I could do to move around, to put one foot in front of the other.
Mm-hmm.
I was on automatic pilot, but
Okay.
unlike other people who just stop,
Yes.
work helped me
Yes.
because I do work full time, and
Sure.
I immersed myself in writing. And of course, music is such a huge healer. I don't know that I would have made it if I didn't have those things.
Oh boy.
Dwayne Parham has a question that he wants to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Venita Louise, I do have a question, and I can, I feel the pain that both of you all have felt losing a loved one. When I lost my mom and my dad, it was music that pulled me through. I had to really sink into it to just keep myself going.
Mm-hmm.
And how old was your son?
He was 28.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like he killed the wrong person because we go through so many changes in
Mhm,
life, and we
mhm.
certainly don't end up the same person we started out
Of
as.
course not. No, no. Well, now, did you have something else, Dwayne?
that just rung a bell. Something just, and that pain, like you say, it just never goes away. It's always there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are some of the lessons about life did you learn as you were working through this valley of darkness?
Well, I think that you don't always know what or who you need to get through something.
Mm-hmm.
You can't dictate the circumstances that
Right.
will heal you.
Right.
And I had been single for 15 years,
Okay.
and I met my husband shortly after Joel died.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
looking back, I don't know if I could have survived without BJ in my life.
That's wonderful. Well, it's sort of like the old adage that says, even though it might not be applicable here, but I think it does in some sense. When one door kind of closes in your life, a new one opens for you, and sometimes you have to look through the both of them at the same time, don't you?
Yes, but I was always wondering where the draft was coming from.
Ah, beautifully put. Beautifully put. Now, did spirituality play a role in helping you overcome some of this pain and grief?
Absolutely. I felt like God was one step ahead of me all the way, preparing the things that I would need to see me through. I don't ever expect to completely be free of grief, but those things were laid out, and I certainly have a strong belief in God and the power of love in the universe.
Sure. Well, I don't think that I could have gotten through it without the spirituality that I leaned on daily and hourly, and sometimes minute by minute. So it certainly did play a great role in my life getting through. Uh, can you talk a little bit about guilt? That when you lose a child, there's a certain amount of guilt that probably comes with it that doesn't come with guilt from another loved one. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, the thing that first, I think suicide is a different type of grief
Okay.
than when someone dies of an illness,
Okay.
because it's just multiplied, and
Okay.
with questions of what could I have done if I
Sure.
had only, why didn't I see,
Sure.
and those things. But the most thing that helped me in realizing is that I don't believe in death.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I just don't. I believe we go to a different place.
Yes.
After all, energy can't be created or destroyed.
Right.
And we're all made up of energy. And I feel Joel's energy around me quite often.
Great. Great. That's wonderful. What do you say to all of the parents out there who have lost a child and is struggling to dissolve the grief, the guilt, or the pain?
Well, I think I would say that I finally came to terms that he's God's child,
Mm-hmm.
and that God trusted me to raise him, and I did my best.
Mm-hmm.
And Joel was a gift to me, never a loss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I can remember one day when I was in one of my darkest moments. I cried out to God, and I said something like, if I could just hear my daughter's voice again. And almost immediately, the words came, and I wrote a poem, and I don't have that poem in front of me, but it is in one of my books. And one of the things that the essence of it was, I am not dead. I did not die. I'm just, I'm still here with you. That is the essence of the poem. And my physical structure is no longer here, but mentally and spiritually, I am with you. So I am not gone. And I'm holding the hand of my favorite dad, and of course, dad meaning God. And so that was the essence of it, and that just lifted that large portion of that grief from me, because I felt that she was speaking to me through the presence of the Christ. Yes, that's how I can quote it, say it.
I do believe that.
What do you think? Why do you think? And this is what I ask myself many times. Why do you think this happened to you? And did you or do you blame anyone?
Well, this didn't happen to me. It happened to him. And of course, the first thing anyone wants to do when a loved one's dead is to place blame somewhere. And like I said, suicide multiplies the guilt.
Sure.
But at the same time, I have to remember that he was just on loan to me. He's really God's kid. And he was the light of my life. And it amazes me that I got through that at all. I'm shocked at it myself, but people ask me, how do you do that? How do you do that? And you don't know how you're going to do things until you have to.
Right. You're absolutely right. It's a step-by-step process that you go through. And initially, it's self-survival. At least it was for me. It's self-survival because you're trying to deal with what's going on inside of you, but you've got to deal with the world outside of you. And so trying to mesh the two can be something. Now, do you have any parting words about the subject we are talking about?
Well, about any subject, I would say it's never too late to follow your dreams. And don't let excuses come up to stop you. Oh, I'm too old, or I can't do that, shouldn't do that. And that's where that saying came in for me: use the talent you possess, for the wood would be silent if no birds sang except the best. And I would just say, to thine own self.
That is so beautifully put. Well, Venita, I can see my time is winding down, but it's been a delight to have you on the show. You're such a delightful person and so talented and multidimensional. And
thank you so much, Mamie.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're going to make sure you hear this show one way or the other.
Oh, for sure.
We promise you. Because
Thank you so much.
You're so wonderful to work with us on this. And
On our maiden voyage, how about that?
Maiden voyage.
Yes.
I'm going to say bye-bye for now.
Okay.
And this is Talk to the Author with Dr. Mamie Smith, saying join us next Sunday. But for today, it's a wrap.